Welcome to Anything Goes with me, Becky Walsh, a modern-day agony aunt for your life questions and for some deep insights you just can't get from your friends. Now, this show is made up by your calls, and you can talk to me about anything. That is the whole point. It's called Anything Goes. The number to call, 03333 403 700, and you can also use the hashtag #CallBecky. Now, our starter topics: how to change the work bully into your very best friend. Now, are you getting bullied at work? Is your dream job turned into having the worst team you could be working with? Well, I can help you turn that around. Hungover and Paranoid, how to cope with the voice in your head no matter what it was that you did the night before. Do you have negative thoughts? Is your inner critic ruining your day? Well, we discuss how to just be a little bit nicer to yourself. And Sexpectations. If sex is meant to get better, how come that over time it can sometimes seriously suck and not in a good way? So, what are your sexual expectations? Are you getting your needs met? Do you feel like giving it up or spicing it up? But we don't have to talk about any of those. This is all about you. This is your show, your calls, your tweets and emails, and I want to be able to speak to you. Now, the number to call is 03333 403 700. Now, our first caller into the show is Emma. Hello, Emma.
Hi, Becky.
Hey, Emma, what made you call the show? Thanks for ringing.
Thank you. Well, basically, I met a guy a few weeks ago in a club, and we had this amazing connection. And it's kind of just since then just turned into more of a sex thing, which is fine because I haven't long been out of a relationship. I'm kind of quite up for that in a way, but because we have this really, really strong connection,
so
I'm
Emma,
kind of
just
scared.
Can you quantify what you mean by connection? Because quite often that can be like, are you talking, you had a really great sexual connection, like you saw him, he's drop dead gorgeous, and the chemistry was just like, oh, baba boom, take me home? Or was it the fact that you got into a conversation and there was more like an eye contact, almost like, have I met you before in a past life? Like, what do you mean by connection?
No, okay, so I literally saw him and I was like, I want you. And then I kind of just made him mine. And then as soon as I
love you, you're brilliant. I just made him mine. Just did that.
As soon as I kissed him, I was like, I love the taste of his saliva. Like the other day I just said to him, I just want to drink your saliva. And literally, you know, the last time we met up for like 6 hours and we literally did not stop kissing that whole time. It was just immense. So it's been really, really like passionate and really like bonkers and really exciting. But I'm just a little bit scared that I'm going to get myself carried away with it and, do you know what I mean, get myself hurt. And I kind of just wanted some advice on how I can kind of protect myself from that.
Yeah, totally. Really. That whole kind of keeping your distance thing. It's really interesting what you were saying about the saliva, because actually a woman can tell whether or not a guy has the right sperm to be able to have the greatest match for the strongest babies. So actually, this is one of the reasons why we kiss. We kiss because by tasting somebody else's saliva, this sounds so gross. I'm really sorry if anyone's having their tea and you're like, tasting people's saliva. And what time is it? It's only just gone 10. But when we're talking about tasting somebody's saliva, you can actually tell whether or not you are going to be great genes for each other. So your body is going, make babies with this man is, just do it. You know, and so you're going to be having that connection plus the oxytocin connection. Now, oxytocin is that love drug. It happens when you've had a bath or a massage or breastfeeding. It's the thing that stops women throttling their baby at 3 o'clock in the morning. So you've got that beautiful oxytocin. You've got all of this going on now. We've discussed this a little bit before, but oxytocin disappears after about several times of having sex with a new partner, and that can take roughly about 3 months. And you may have experienced this before. It's suddenly when they have a haircut and you go, oh God, I was so into him and now he's had a haircut. Or he says something really stupid and you've gone from, I've never felt like this before, he's the most amazing man in the world, to, oh my God, did he just actually say that in front of my friends? So if you haven't been seeing him that long, the oxytocin is still really rife. So you're going to start to get this almost like drug addiction to this guy. So that when you're apart from each other, you can't think about anything else. You don't want to eat. You can't sleep. You're going crazy. You're having sex flashbacks. Just It's brilliant, Emma. It's like one of the most divine feelings in the world, but it is highly addictive. This is how addictive people, you know, can get addicted to sex and get addicted to love and these first time encounters, which are really, really juicy. So what I would say to you is just bear with yourself and just know that you're going to feel a bit crazy pants for the first 3 months, but it doesn't mean that you're going to stay having those kinds of feelings. And I actually think this is why religion did that whole no sex before marriage, because once you're married, it's kind of it. You're kind of married and you're kind of with that person. And I think that kind of like some sort of like religious kind of things knew that this kind of like letting it go thing would be the thing that would let it go. So I think that that's quite interesting, you know, that you could actually, you know, once you're married to someone, real love has to take place. So when it comes to a long-term partner, you need to actually slow things down so that real love can take place and you can get to know someone, so that when the oxytocin stops, you're just not kind of twiddling your thumbs and looking for a new partner. And of course, Mother Nature takes oxytocin away because she thinks, well, if you haven't got pregnant in 3 months, then you must be firing blanks, because Mother Nature is all about getting you pregnant, and that's the thing. So is there a particular reason why he's not your guy? Like, is he not your guy because he's too young? Is he not your guy because, like, why is he not your guy?
Yeah, he's like 18 years younger, than me.
Yeah. So of course he's going to be on a different, complete pathway in your life and what you're looking for. So if you're not looking for the same thing, are you looking to start a family yourself? And so you're kind of doing this sort of, I've just come out of one relationship, this is an in-betweener, but I'm actually looking for my life partner.
Yes. But I kind of like, I feel like a bit like Jekyll and Hyde at the moment. So at the moment, I feel like I've got this massive rebellious kind of thing going on, and I want to just go out and go crazy and just have a lot of fun. But then also, obviously, in the back of my mind, I've got this, okay, must meet someone, must do this, must settle down kind of thing. So I feel like I flipped between the two, if you see what I mean. So I'm also a bit confused in myself as well at the moment, because I don't really know what I want.
Well,
really.
I think we can always find, you know, like the right man for right now. So when we're looking for Mr. Right, and we're kind of like thinking about, it's so much pressure to find this one guy that we want to spend the rest of our life with. And then when we actually end up going on dates, it's more like kind of like a really intense interview where you're sort of sitting with somebody, analysing them to death. And so I think what you've got with this person is you've got this amazing kind of connection that you've got that's a sexual thing that can bring about an awful lot of healing. Enjoy it as being the right person for right now, and then just see what kind of happens, because, you know, I do think that we meet the right people when we need to meet them. And obviously as women, we've got the clock ticking, it gets really scary, we don't know how that's going to sort of transcend in our future. But it sounds to me, just bring down your level of anxiety and trust yourself, because you can trust yourself to be resilient. You know, and that you can actually say that I can be resilient enough to let go. And that's the thing to do. Thank you so much for your call, Emma. I really hope that helps you. Does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Becky. It's a great show.
Brilliant.
Really enjoying it.
That's a lovely, lovely conversation to have had with you. Thank you so much, Emma. If you want to call us like Emma did, if you've got problems going on in your love life, you know, sometimes all you need is a little bit of clarity. And that's really something that I'm good at. One insight, just one insight, can change the course of your entire life. If you're ready for that tonight, then you might want to give us a call. The number to ring is 033 33 403 700. Now, if you're a little bit shy, I'm all right with a Twitter thing, you can hashtag call Becky, and also you can send in an email as well. So you can get hold of me multiple ways. And in fact, we also have a tweet that has just come in. So let's take a little look at that. So this tweet is from Mafia, and it says, I need to know how I can use my body language to show a man I'm interested. Oh, I love you. In fact, I'm kind of doing it now, where I look really intently at you and slow down my speech and then pull back. And do you know what's brilliant about your eyes? When you are feeling attraction, your pupils get bigger, so your eyes get sexier, so they get really big. And people can see that, or they can read it, which is a really good thing. So, you know, I think it's about eye contact. And now with internet dating and all these things, we don't do it. What we used to do is this kind of thing where you'd look at a guy, then you look away when he looked at you, and then you'd look back at him, and then you'd look away like you were deeply embarrassed, then you'd look back at him again. And also, you know, eye contact, an open body language, show off your assets, and just smile and look happy. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to date somebody who's miserable. So I hope that helps. That should help you a lot. We're going to be coming up to a break, but don't forget, you can pitch your call in now. 033 33 403 700. We will call you back. It's not even going to be on your phone bill, which is a really, really good thing. And I would love to speak to you. My passion is changing lives. It's what I do, and I would love to speak to you. So give us a call, 033 403 700. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. I'm Becky Walsh, a catalyst for personal transformation, and I'm taking your calls and you can join in the conversation. The number 033 33 403 700. You can also email becky@maidtelevision.tv, and also we're going to be able to take your voicemails during the week as well as your emails, and you can use the hashtag #CallBecky. We've got another caller on the line, which I'm very grateful for. Hi Christine, how can I help?
Hi, basically, whenever I meet a guy, I'm quite masculine energy. I just wanted to know how I can come across as like girly and something they'd like instead of being one of the lads, basically.
Oh, do you know, I know exactly how you feel, and especially, is your job quite male orientated? Like, I don't mean that you work with lots of guys. And let's just actually explain to everyone what you meant by male energy, and just to confirm it in our conversation, in our speak. Because male energy is doing, fixing, sorting and achieving. It's dynamic, okay? And if we think about it, penis, vagina, it makes sense. And female energy is passive, stillness and being. So the female is always the guest, and the female is always the host, and the male is the guest. So in a way, what you're talking about there is that if you have to be dynamic during the day, sometimes when we are in our evening thing, it's really hard to suddenly go into that kind of like demure, passive stillness and being. So is your job quite dynamic? Do you have to be quite dynamic within your work?
Well, I've always found that I'm quite... obviously, I can adapt to different sexes and obviously speak to different sexes, but... I find it hard to like come out of work mode when I'm interested in a certain guy and I want him to be interested in me. I just find it very hard to sort of switch off.
Well, it's so difficult because we're in this modern time when women really have been told, I was taught, you were taught to be strong and independent and powerful and all of those things, and, you know, not to become dependent on a guy and not to kind of like have all of these sort of things. I think the thing is that when we are strong and independent, we demasculate guys, and that becomes a bit of a problem. So when you're on a date and you really like someone, I call it my inner excited Labrador. So I kind of want to just jump up and lick them all over their face. And of course, some people just don't like that. And I know exactly what you mean, that I want to explain that, you know, that you're into them, and then they kind of run away because women are choosers and men are chasers. But if you like a guy and he's not choosing you, then the anxiety that causes makes you chase them. So is this something that's happened to you quite recently? Can you tell us a story about it?
It happens to me all the time, actually. I'm very independent, and obviously I can do everything for myself. I've been single for quite a number of years now, and I'm ready to find that somebody. I just find it very hard, obviously letting people in and seeing my true colours, because I'm so used to doing things for myself. And there has been a guy recently, yes, and I think he seems to me more of a friend, really, because I'm I speak to him on that kind of level. Yeah,
and also I feel intuitively that you've been helping him as well. And unfortunately, when we help people, or kind of, it comes across a little bit as mothering, but the guys that we help never end up with us. You know, all of these kind of ideas about the guy who always goes for the nurse, all of that archetype. Well, it's because you're so brilliant, and therefore then you end up attracting guys who want mother figures rather than actually attracting a guy who is really strong. So here's the thing, and it's a very, very simple fix, you'll be pleased to know, because you know, you are a victim of your social time. This is not your fault. All of us are having a backlash of women's liberation. And women's liberation was fantastic, but it was a liberation into the masculine and not the feminine. And what we need to do now is start liberating into the feminine. So in a sense, what we really need to do is have a role for a man in our life. So I want you to get a piece of paper and I want you to write a list of everything that you no longer want to do for yourself. Because just because you can do it for yourself doesn't mean you want to. So I don't really want to mow my lawn. Now, this is going to make me sound sexist against women, right? But I don't want to mow my lawn. I don't want to tinker with my car. I don't want to check the oil.
Exactly.
I can do all of that. I did courses in motor vehicle maintenance. I used to ride motorbikes. I'm as male savvy as I am female savvy. But there's just some stuff that I'd really like to no longer do. So I want you to write a list of all of the things that you want to not do in your life anymore, that you would love to go, darling, I can't believe that you did that. That's fantastic. Thank you. And also I would ask you what your love style is. So there's about 4 different love styles. Some people like to be told, I love you. Some people like to have someone who does things for them. That's me. Some people like to have somebody who is very tactile and huggy and gentle. And I've forgotten my 4th one, which is typical. It's live TV. It will come back to me. And if you know which one of your love styles you've got, then you can also communicate that in the way in which you leave a gap for that person to step into it. So in other words, when you go out for dinner, don't jump to your purse to pay the bill if you're somebody who likes action-based, loving kind of things. And again, if you're somebody who likes to be told I love you, then you can actually sort of compliment the other person and then they feel safe to compliment you back. So these subtle changes, like for example, don't be the person that opens the door. I have a bit of a story, a similar thing. I was in a relationship with a guy and I was absolutely demasculating him and I felt terrible, and I was conscious enough to have a conversation with him about it. And he said, well, what can I do? Because he felt I was criticising him. I'm like, I'm not criticising you, I'm apologising for what I'm not allowing you to do. So from now on, you open the door for me, you do all of this stuff, you choose the menu when we're in a restaurant. So we walked into a pizza place, it had one of those swanky revolving doors, and he went to kind of push the door. No, I went to push the door and then I stood back and I went, no, you push and I walk. And he pushed that revolving door and I walked through that revolving door with the chest held high, with my head in the air, and he chose the table and every single guy in that place was looking at me and he felt the proudest man in the place. Then when the waitress came over, he ordered for me because he remembered what I liked, and that made me feel really loved. So if you can make some of these really, really subtle changes where you back down and become passive, which is the feminine, passive, stillness, being, without losing your authenticity, because let me tell you, you are fabulous. And if you can't meet a man that doesn't understand how fabulous you are, then you may just have to just like forget it and bank it, because you must never change yourself, but just open into what is true for you in the feminine and open into your vulnerability and allow yourself to speak from your vulnerability and allow yourself to speak from your fear, because that's how we inspire knights in shining armour. We can't sit on the dragon's head being served by dwarves. Those fairy tales, they have a lot to teach us. So it might also be worth just going through some of those old fairy tale books, you know, the ones that always made you vomit. Unfortunately, I think that they are actually guides to life and relationships. I hate to say it, but I think it's true. I'm not Rapunzel, though, I swear to God. I hope that really helps you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It was lovely to speak to you. If you want to speak to me like Christina's done, she's been very brave and open and vulnerable, and I think that girl is totally in touch with the feminine side. If she managed to call me and talk to me, that would be brilliant. Okay, so the number to ring, just in case you didn't have a pen last time I said it, 03333 403 700. Now, you can also send in email. So I've got my trusty iPad here and I had a work email come in, and this was on the topic that we were talking about at the top of the show, about working with really difficult people. So if you've been working with a work bully and they've been kind of getting at you and being on top of you, and you've been finding yourself becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and not knowing what to say because you don't want to look like a whimsical rat bag, literally call me and we will sort it out. I've been bullied in jobs, it's horrid, but I fixed it and I can teach you how. So this email came in and it said, lately I've been observing, it's from Sarah, lately I've been observing more nepotism than ever in the workplace. It makes me feel really angry, especially because I know I have so much more to give. This anger is inside of me. What do you recommend? Now I've cut that short because we understand what's going on there. It's really hard when you've got like a nepotistic, and do you know, a lot of this stuff is actually about ego power dynamics. Now, the one thing I can tell about you, Sarah, from in the way in which you've actually worded that email is I think you're a lot of fun. And I think you're a very open, friendly, lovely, creative, jazzy kind of person. And I think that what flips you into this angry self is not being seen. However, you are the girl that's walking around the office with the clown nose on, doing an SAS manoeuvre across the floor, trying to be avoided so that you can make everything all right. So what I would say to you is step into your power dynamic, be your authentic, powerful self, and you will find that the nepotism stops because they don't see you as being a pushover anymore. Give us a call. You can ring us on 03333 403 700, or you can send us an email, as we have just explained. The emails can come in. And I would love to hear from you. You can also tweet us using the hashtag #CallBecky. I would love to be able to speak to you this evening and give you a really decent night's sleep. When did you go to bed? Not thinking about stuff. Well, I can really help you with that. We're coming up to a break now, but you can give us a call and I will be speaking to you after, well, I guess after we've paid the rent. All right, coming back after this. Thank you for joining us. I'm Becky Walsh and I change lives. Could yours do with just a little bit of a refinement? Well, you can call me and tell me whatever it is that perhaps keeps you awake at night. What are the things in life that niggle you? They don't have to be big things. They can just be some even small things that have been getting on your nerves a little bit. Sometimes a shift of perspective is all you need to be able to shift your life forward and get unstuck. I always think stuck is a holding point while you're waiting for more information. I provide the information that gets your life moving again. So if you want to take part in the show, we've been getting loads of calls coming in this evening, but I think that we've got a couple of lines, maybe one line free, and it's got your name on it. The number to ring, 03333 403 700. If you're doing the whole tweet thing, you can use the hashtag #CallBecky and let us know what you think of the show. I am curious. We're into our second week now, but I would love to know what it is that you think of the show. This show is led by you. So whatever it is that you want to talk about, you can tell me. And you can tell us either on Facebook or you can send us a tweet. But just let us know. Get involved. I'd love to hear from you. Now, we've got a call coming through and that is from Nikki. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Hi, Becky. Loving the show, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really good to hear. What made you ring in?
Well, the thing is, Becky, what I've noticed, I'm picking up on your comment earlier about the inner critic.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to sort of share with you that I've noticed recently that I've got a really big inner critic. It turns up usually when something hasn't gone to plan or I haven't done something quite right or something's gone wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, God, why did you do that? Oh, you stupid cow. And,
yeah.
you know, all sorts of things like that turn up. And you know, it's just incessant. And I just don't seem to stop it. And it just goes on and on. I don't quite know why I do it to myself. But I certainly, what I've noticed is that I wouldn't speak to anyone else like that. But I do it to myself.
Yeah,
so
do you know, isn't it true?
Really.
You've made such a really good point there, Nikki. Thank you so much, because you know, we wouldn't speak to somebody else the way that we speak to ourselves. And also, if we were to speak to somebody else like that, they would stop being our friends. So that inner critic is really awful. And I was saying at the top of the show about being hungover and paranoid, because usually that inner critic happens when you've been out the night before and then you rerun everything that you said to somebody else in your head when you were drunk, forgetting completely that they were probably drunk too. Nikki, are you able to sort of like do that separate thing where you can see that you are the thinker of your thoughts and not your thoughts? So when you described that, you were saying, you know, I'm talking to myself negatively. So in a way, there's the self and then there's the voice. Can you see, you can obviously see the difference between the two things when you say I'm talking negatively to myself?
Actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
I can see that. Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
So if you're the thinker of your thoughts, it's a little bit like being able to have an internal editor. That if you can see that you're the thinker of your thoughts and not the thoughts, therefore then you know that your thoughts are not your personality and they're not who you are. So when your inner critic is calling you a stupid idiot or a cow, as you called yourself, it's like you know you're not that. And then there's another voice that comes forward that talks to that inner critic. Now, for me, I think that the inner critic in young psychology is archetypal, so it's an archetype. So we might say Russell Brand is an archetype of a court jester. That's why he never gets his head cut off for some of the things that he says. So we all have different archetypes, like the teacher, the parent, the adult, the child. So I wonder, because I reckon that you're a really brilliant coach for other people and that you tell other people how brilliant they are and that you cheerlead, including pom-poms, for other people.
Yeah, it's true actually. Yeah, I do. I'm very supportive of others and I always see the good in others. I just don't seem to be able to do it for myself.
Well, exactly.
I don't know what's going on there really.
Could you create a coach for yourself? So in other words, you've got your inner critic and then you actually create a coach that answers the inner critic. And if you wanted to, you could even like cut out pages of a magazine. So for example, this is going to sound completely nuts, but I think we're aware that I have that tendency. That when I've got to make a difficult phone call, I imagine myself to be Angelina Jolie addressing the UN, right? So I'm kind of like, you know, I stand as she might stand, being one of the most beautiful women in the world. That's her, not me. And I stand and I kind of like pick up the phone and I don't know how to do the phone thing. I pick up the phone and it sort of empowers me in a way. And there's a lot of science actually to say that when we stand in a powerful position, a power pose, that actually starts to make us feel better about ourselves. So if you can kind of do the similar thing, like find someone in your own life that's a really good coach, or find your inner coach, create pictures, maybe do a mood board so that you're putting the pictures all together, so that when you get that inner critic voice, you can say, no, I'm not listening to you. I had, you might remember the singer Helen Reddy. She sang I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. You know, right the way back.
I remember that, yeah.
Well, she changed my life because I used to be extremely critical about myself and I would make lots of jokes publicly about myself. And then when people made the same jokes back to me, I'd get hurt, which is kind of nuts really, because I was making those jokes about myself. So I'd go, oh, I'm really stupid. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, by doing that, I kind of was giving other people permission to treat me badly. Now, I don't think you do that, Nikki, so I know I used to do it. And I did it once in front of the singer Helen Reddy. That sounds like a name drop. I did it in front of Helen Reddy and she said, you never speak about yourself, my friend, disrespectfully in front of me ever again. And she became like this archetypal voice in my head that stopped me speaking negatively about myself. So every time my negative voice would come into my head, my coach, or my inner coach being Helen Reddy, would come forward and go, you don't get to speak to my friend like that. And over a period of time, because the brain is so full of neuroplasticity, I actually reprogrammed my brain. And then I started a new programming, and I know you probably know all about this, but I started a new programming where I started to say things like, I really love you, Becky. I really love you, Becky. You're really awesome, Becky. I really love you, Becky. And I just kept saying it, just walking down the street, until suddenly my brain did a really interesting thing. It suddenly started to just say that to me without me trying. So where it used to say, you raving idiot, it suddenly started saying, I love you. And to be honest, it really changed the way that people treated me. And so the inner change changed my outer world. And I just think I probably wouldn't even be sitting here today if that hadn't happened. So I think it's quite good to sort of turn those voices round in your head as well. So how do you feel about all of that stuff, Nikki? What does that mean to you?
I think this is this is definitely great advice, and I'm going to try that, because I think you're right. You know, if you can change it gradually by keep reminding yourself, then eventually it becomes automatic. And I will try. I've just got one more other thing to ask you. When things go wrong, say in a group, sometimes I'll think of ways that can be my fault. I don't know why I do that either, because some of this stuff has got nothing to do with me, but for some reason I hold responsibility for it, and then I start telling myself off business. Oh, it's because you didn't do this, or you haven't done that, and maybe it's because you said this, or and so it goes on. So I'm just wondering,
have such a huge mothering archetype. And so it's like you feel that you need to take responsibility, not just for every single person you meet, but for the world. And I think that when we have such a huge open heart as you do, where you really want to help people, and it comes from such a centered place, then no matter what happens, like someone else will spill water and you'll say, oh, I'm sorry, you were nowhere near it. And it's because it's like, oh, I didn't warn them that they might spill the water. Do you see how mothering that is? I think it's really mothering. So in actual fact, I think if you can pull in a different, again, it's archetypal, it's mothering archetype. So I think if you can find another archetype to answer that, or just tell yourself to just kind of like go, do you know, I'm totally all right with this. So in other words, rather than try and fight something, because it's really interesting, fighting something doesn't work. Transforming it does, but fighting it doesn't. So if you have a thought like, I shouldn't do that, I must stop doing that, it's almost impossible to stop. The first thing you have to do is fully accept it. So, oh, I'm doing that mothering thing again. I'm hilarious. Oh, I'm doing that thing that I always do. That's very funny, very human of me. So by being able to kind of turn it around and say, I'm just being very human, this is just who I am, and I love myself and I accept myself, by accepting who we are, we actually then can reach a baseline where we can transform ourselves into being who we want to be. But without self-acceptance, you can't do it. Oh, thank you so much for your call, Nikki. I really appreciate it. You've been really brave. Thank you so much for getting in touch.
Thank you, Becky. It's been really, really helpful, and I'm going to try to do all of those things you taught me, so thank you. Brilliant.
Thank you so much. If you want to be like Nikki and you want to put in your call, the number to ring is 033 33 403 700. We have got time for your call. Don't do what people do, and then when we get to the end, wish that you'd planted that call. Do it now, do it now, do it now. So give us a ring, and don't forget the hashtag is Call Becky. We'll be coming back to you right after this. Quick, we are nearly at the end of the show, but you still have time to just slip in your call if you want to, and the number to ring is 033 33 403 700. You can drop your questions in during the week as well if you want to. You can send me an email to becky@maidtelevision.tv, or you can even leave a voicemail. How cool is that? The number to leave the voicemail is exactly the same as the one we've been using the whole show, 033 33 403 700. You can tweet me personally at BeckyWalsh.com, or you can find the group on Facebook as well, so we can have a little chat on there too. So and don't forget, on Twitter you can use the hashtag Call Becky. How many more ways do you need to get in touch with us? You just need to do it now. That's all you need to do. We've got Pete on the line. Hi, Pete.
Hello, Becky. Hello, Becky. Great show. Really enjoying it.
Oh, I'm really pleased. Really Thanks for ringing in. Thanks so much. So how can I help you? What can I do for you? I have a magic wand at standby.
Well, it's nothing to do with any of your subjects this evening.
That's good, because it's caller-led. That makes me happy. Strong independence. We're loving it.
Something has bothered me for a long time. My mum, who's very, very elderly now, I've always thought that she kind of loves money more than she's loved me and my brother.
Oh.
You know, she's always been happy, you know, counting her money and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Rather than perhaps, you know, maybe showing some more affection to us.
Yeah.
You know, I've kind of grown up now and I'm not bothered about it. quite so much, but it's always been there in the back of my mind. And I just wonder why, really. I mean, well,
yeah, I can give you a really straight answer to that. It's an addiction. So we automatically assume that addictions can be addictions to alcohol or addictions to drugs, but actually people can get addicted to money. In fact, I know of a woman who's actually getting divorced at the moment because she pays more attention to 4 horses that she owns than she does to her own children or her family. So we can get addicted to almost anything. I'm going to ask you a bit of a strange question. Was your grandmother her mother? Did she go through a bit of poverty in her family line?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Well, they came through the war years, you see, and there was no NHS, and they had medical bills to pay for. Yeah. You know, in the 50s. So my mother had quite a hard life. So yeah. Maybe that's influenced it.
And I mean, obviously, from a child's perception, when your mum's kind of like, and you know, I mean, I know, my family were really, really broke when I was growing up as well, and everything, like whether or not we had broken biscuits, hand-me-down clothes, writing thank you letters for other kids' clothes, and why don't I get new clothes, and all of those things that really affect your self-esteem. And when you've got a mum that's actually sort of prioritising not the things that you need, but like saving money and hoarding money, it's coming from a fear deficit. So in a sense, you know, and sometimes you can have more compassion when you start to feel sorry for them and kind of think, well, actually, this is a fear that has come literally from the womb. And what's interesting, I find this fascinating, that you were created in your grandmother's womb. Isn't that weird? So your mother was born with all of her eggs inside of her. So your genes and everything and your grandmother's influences actually kind of like run through you as well. So if there's been an obsession with kind of like money and hoarding things and looking after things, then we start to associate love with money. So we start to associate either being given money as a sign of love or having money not given to us or things not given to us as a sign of love withdrawal. And so in a way for your mum, she probably had that from her mother, that she wasn't, you know, able to have all of the things that she wanted. So money became a sign of love or love withdrawal. And that can create an addiction. So in the same way that we were talking earlier to Emma about how sometimes you get like a sex addiction, you can just be addicted to absolutely anything. So it sounds like your mum has an addiction. Now, hearing that, Pete, hearing that it was an addiction, if we were to look at this as if she was addicted to alcohol or to drugs, would you have more compassion for her if she was addicted to something that was more traditional? Would you understand it more?
Probably, yes, because I would be able to understand it. It's slightly more tangible then, perhaps. But, okay.
Because it makes it sound like she enjoyed the finer things in life more than she enjoyed being a mother. And of course, that's not necessarily the case. It's just that fear breeds that addiction. And then when they're addicted, you can't even see that you're addicted to it. I mean, when we think about what's wrong in society, you think about the people who are in big business and they're living in high-rise blocks, you know, they're kind of like looking down on the drug addicts in the street going, well, you know, I'm not like them. But actually, money addiction, power addiction has actually what is destroying the planet. Because what then happens is with power addiction and money addiction, we start to not care about our employees, we don't care about how many trees we cut down, we don't care about the planet. So in a way, we have all kinds of addictions that actually destroy our quality of life. So money addiction is actually, you know, it just seems to be that it's the rich people that have it, so we don't really notice it. We spend most of our attention looking at drug addicts rather than actually looking at addiction in a different way. I hope that helps. You know, my wish for you, Pete, is to have some, if you can, because I think you're a very, very compassionate man. And I hope that makes you see that it's actually a disease and something that is unfortunate towards her, really, in a way.
But that's a different angle of looking at it. So I'm very grateful for your advice, Becky. Thank you.
No problem at all. That's what I really like is different aspects. Sometimes a different perspective can open up a whole new level of thinking. I hope after that you'll probably go back and start rethinking your life and going through all of these things that have happened and looking at them all differently. Sometimes when we change our memories and the issues and painful things that happened to us in our past, we really open up and things shift for us. So Good luck with that, Pete. Thank you so much for your call. Now, we had an email come in. I had quite a few emails this week. So obviously, you know, people want to be able to reach out to the show. And of course, don't forget, you can do that by calling. You might be tight for time, but we might be able to get you in. 033 33 403 700. You'll kick yourself if you don't. So we had an email come in, and this one, it's a bit of a sexy one, but it's a bit of a sad one. It says, sex has become a major issue with me and my partner. I really don't want it anymore, but he demands it of me, and I'm not emotionally present when he's asking for it. So I feel that there's a lot of pressure, and afterwards I feel really sad, and I've often cried. It makes me feel emotionally shut down. He's often critical of me, and I wonder if his criticism has caused us to be emotionally disconnected and me not fully present in the bedroom. Whew, Sue, yeah. Criticism's a really hard thing to actually make love off the back of somebody criticising you, even if they criticised you earlier in the day. Now, the way in which a guy will connect is you might have an argument and then he wants to make love to make it up, so to reconnect after an argument. But quite often for a woman, if we've had an argument, we do become really emotionally shut down. And of course, talking earlier, we were talking about being the host. You're always the host, and the man is always the guest. So would you invite someone into your house that you just had an argument with in the street? So I think the thing is, you can't have that kind of intimacy that is required for us to open up our bodies, and especially orgasms. Because for a woman, you can be in the middle of, he could be technically brilliant, and you're in the middle of having an orgasm, but then you suddenly think, oh, did I leave the back door unlocked? Or is the oven on? Or some ridiculous thought comes into your head, and your orgasm's gone out of the window, because it's like losing an erection. You lose the erection in your clitoris and you're back to square one. A woman's heart needs to be open to accept a man into her body. If she accepts him into her body when she isn't open, then that's when we get that emotional ripping, as if we just feel, no, I don't need this and I don't want this. So I think it's about dialogue, and I think it's about being able to have a conversation where you basically say, you know, because you can't make him bad because it will just create another argument. So you basically say, you know, in order to feel close to you, in order to feel intimate with you, and in order to love you, we need to look at why you're being so critical towards me. Because if you loved me, you wouldn't be being critical towards me. You'd be open, you'd be listening, we'd be having a dialogue, we'd be getting close together. I think when somebody's really critical and you're taking it, you have to get to a point where that relationship either changes and transforms and goes into therapy, or it ends. And I hate to be the bad tiger of that one, but I think it's very important. Wow, well, this show has been incredible. Thank you so much for your calls. We've spoken to Emma and her problem with friends with benefits. We've been coming across not being feminine in relationships, which was Christine's issue. Nikki was struggling with negative thoughts, and Peter was struggling with his mum's relationship as she was valuing money and her addiction to that more than him and his brother. On next week's show, we're talking polyamory. Can you be born to love more than one sexual partner? Do you love yourself? Go on, people will really like you for it. And flatmates from hell, how to avoid the desire to seriously pummel your flatmate's head in. But you can get your emails. If you want to get your emails in, you can do that by emailing me at becky@madeinbristol.tv. Thank you so much. See you next week.